And now our next student speaker is Erin Murphy. Erin has deep roots in southern Indiana. Her dad serves as a Marine. I don't know if he's still serving. Marine Corps veteran, who served 4 years in infantry while in the Middle East. So our hats off and thanks to Erin's dad for his service. And he inspired Erin to join the Young Marines, which I think is so incredible. It's a drug demand reduction program that teaches American youth the importance of a healthy lifestyle and leadership. And man, what a timely message this is today. So this is how Erin learned to be a leader and how she's been fostering her desire to lead. And so let's give a warm welcome to our next student speaker, Erin Murphy.
So we all know someone who's gone down the rabbit hole of drug use. Unfortunate, but true. And you may have been lectured on the negative effects of drugs enough times for this talk to be completely white noise. But it's my goal to do all that I can to fight drugs, so listen up. My main focus is THC, which you may know is found in marijuana or pot. And there are many different forms of this. I'm sure everyone has heard of vapes, specifically those containing THC. There are also gummies and edibles infused with this stuff. Kids on the West Coast mostly, where the substance is legal, are getting sick from mistaking their parents' gummies for safe candy. Good evening. My name is Young Marine Staff Sergeant Murphy, and I'm with the Seymour Young Marines, a program for kids ages 8 to 18 focused on keeping America's youth off of drugs and teaching us to be outstanding leaders in our community. I've seen an abundance of drug use in my lifetime, and considering my age, that says a lot. Kids my age, even younger, and schools everywhere are being caught using drugs, especially THC. So parents, you may say, my kid would never willingly ingest THC. Well, remember the example I mentioned earlier with the kids accidentally eating the gummies? That could very well happen with middle schoolers. What I mean by that is, a kid wouldn't tell their parents that they ate their candy. This is because they know they'll get in trouble. So if they unknowingly eat edibles, they're not going to tell any parents or adults, which would lead to them getting seriously hurt. Kids my age are the same with knowingly using drugs. They might vape, and since they think it's fine, they won't even think about telling their parents. So it's clear that kids shouldn't be doing it. But what about adults? Why is it so harmful? Well, THC is known as a gateway drug. A gateway drug is a substance that isn't as harmful, keyword as, it can still do a lot of damage, but it's not the same as other drugs. However, using this can lead to more lethal drugs, such as cocaine. Even though it's only a gateway drug by itself, that doesn't mean it can't do some heavy damage to your body. Statistics show, however, that marijuana isn't usually the first used drug of the average person. But we need to be cautious of this. It has the potential to be. Let me explain. It's actually alcohol, which makes a whole lot of sense. Raise your hand if, in your childhood home, your parents had alcohol. This is completely fine. No judgment. However, this is because alcohol is widely normalized. Think about it. We have bars and pubs everywhere. You can even order a beer at Six Flags. You can go to almost any restaurant and ask, what's on tap? We don't see this as much with marijuana, though. There are stores popping up in legal states, and I think we'll see a rise of this in the future. We saw the same with coffee houses in the 17th century. Those who dared to sell coffee would be tossed in a burlap sack out to sea. But nowadays, you can find a Starbucks anywhere. We're already seeing a rise of this with THC. Every time I scroll on social media, which is a habit to be discussed another time, I see an advertisement for edibles. And a total of 24 US states allow recreational hemp use. Let me note, recreational use is very different than medical use. I believe that if prescribed cautiously, it can be beneficial. That is only for people who need it, though. My dad, a US Marine Corps veteran, has buddies who came back from battle with severe PTSD. They were prescribed marijuana, and it helped their situation. This isn't common, though, and it should be very strict on how we decide to give patients this. Recreational, on the other hand, isn't for people who need it, it's a want. And marijuana is being popularized at that sense at a very scary rate. So what's bad about THC itself? The National Institute of Drug Abuse lists several long-term disorders related to the use of marijuana. such as schizophrenia and suicidal thoughts. Is that it? No. I have multiple friends that have been hurt by this substance, hospitalized even. This affects lives. This can lead to someone taking their own life, and even children are affected. A popular thing now is THC carts and vapes. Carts are the little thing of liquid that's vaporized when in use. Hence the name vape. Now, I'm sure most of us have watched the news lately, and have seen the massive wave of illegal migrants entering our country. I'm not here to say they're horrible or give my political opinion on any of that. That's not as important as the kids that are affected. Back to what I was saying. With a tsunami of immigrants, there's also been a wave of fentanyl following. If you don't know what fentanyl is, according to the CDC, fentanyl is a synthetic opioid drug that is up to 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. Also, according to the CDC, fentanyl and other synthetic opioids are the most common drugs involved in overdose deaths. Even in small doses, it can be deadly. Over 150 people die every day from overdoses related to synthetic opioids like fentanyl. Let that sink in. In 2022, according to Statistia.com, there were 21,156 reported cases of murder or non-negligent manslaughter in the US. That number is 1/3 of the amount of people who die from overdose of opioids. Granted, that's a global compared to a statistic that applies to the US, but it should not be that high. This is a severe problem. People are putting this drug in vape cartridges, the same things that kids practically everywhere are getting caught with. According to the CDC, 4.6% of kids in 7th and 8th grade combined have been caught using an e-cigarette. In high school, that percentage more than doubled. 10% of high school students. That number is 1 in 10. That's wild. Knowing all of that, why would kids turn to drugs in the first place? Well, according to JAMA, peer influence plays a pivotal role in the annotation of tobacco and drug usage. We hear a lot about peer pressure when we talk about drugs, but just how influential is it? According to MNHS, 85% of high schoolers have felt peer pressure. 80% of teens began smoking due to peer influence, and 75% have tried alcohol due to it. Could you imagine how this would look with THC? While I couldn't find any studies with that specific information, the wide normalization of THC, and vapes mostly, in high school points to a similar result. Vapes are also marketed in a way that makes them more appealing than other drugs. They come in a variety of fun flavors to mentally separate users from the harmful substances that they're actually putting in their bodies. The fact that teens are able to find ways to get normal nicotine vapes is alarming in itself. The legal age to buy one in the US is 21 years of age. So how are minors able to get a hold of these? They usually get them from their friends or they steal them. Think of your local gas station. Plenty of sources of nicotine are out on display. Perfect to grab. How could we fix this? We should make it a federal law that devices containing nicotine or cigarettes be locked behind the counter out of reach. That'll help the situation a lot. Not to mention, e-cigarettes themselves, even without THC, contain acrolein, which is used in herbicides. Kids are inhaling this. So instead of worrying about what we're triggered by, worry about what's actually happening. Start being involved in your kids' lives. Pay attention, teach them, and advocate for learning about drugs in the classroom. The school curriculum touches on teaching about drugs, but one chapter isn't enough. More in-depth teaching needs to happen to make a much greater impact. If you want change, write to your local senator. Tell them that this is a problem that needs to be stopped. They have the power to fix it. Ask for laws to prevent teens from getting their hands on these. And since they represent us, you have the power to vote to fix it. Lastly, according to G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. So we should be arming ourselves for this war. And that comes with building a level of trust with your child to the point where they can come to you about any drugs or danger they put themselves in. That may seem like a lot, but listening is the first step to change. So thank you so much. Y'all were great. Have an amazing night.